when the scoreboard says 0? Most can't. They stop digging just before they strike gold. They pull the plug on the project when it's 1 inch from blooming. Why? Because they can't stomach the silence. But you must be different. You must learn to listen to the silence and understand what it really means. It means you're early, not wrong, not failing, just early. So how do you stay the course when no one's watching? You keep records, not of wins, but of work. You track your consistency. You celebrate the showing up, the attempt, the discipline. You anchor your worth in the process, not the praise. And you embrace the law of compounding. You understand that today's unseen effort is tomorrow's breakthrough. Like the farmer in spring, he doesn't dig up his seeds in doubt. He doesn't quit watering just because the field still looks empty. He knows what's happening beneath the surface. Roots are forming, foundations are being laid, and when the moment comes, the green will explode, not because he did more, but because he didn't quit. Can you handle that kind of boredom? The kind that feels like spinning your wheels with no movement? Can you keep pouring water into the ground when nothing rises to thank you for it? If you can, you are already rare, and if you persist, you will become unstoppable, because every man wants the fruit, but few are willing to wait for the roots. So stay steady. Show up, plant again, water again, and let the silence prove your strength. The sprout is coming. Build before you're ready, or you'll never begin. The world is filled with men who waited. They waited for clarity, for courage, for the timing to feel just right. They waited for approval, for savings to pile up, for signs to arrive from above or from within. And now, years later, they are still waiting, trapped in the same cycle, wiser perhaps, but no closer. Because readiness is a myth, a sedative dressed in reason. It lulls men to sleep and whispers, not yet. But the truth is this: you don't become ready before the leap, you become ready by leaping. Why must you begin now? Because motion breathes life into vision. Action creates momentum, and momentum births belief. Confidence isn't something you're given, it's something you earn. Each small step, each unfinished attempt, each broken try, it all becomes evidence, and evidence turns into power. You do not think your way into courage, you act your way into it. There will never be a day when all the lights turn green. Never a moment where the fears vanish completely. Never a time where the inner critic stays quiet long enough for peace to take hold. You must go anyway. You must walk into the wind, not wait for it to settle. Because the man who waits for perfect becomes perfectly nothing. You start where you are, with what you have. You write with broken pencils. You train with rusty tools. You speak while your voice still trembles. You build even when you don't yet believe in the strength of your own hands. Because forward motion, even clumsy, is superior to polished hesitation. Think of a man standing before a rickety wooden bridge. It sways with every gust. The boards creak beneath the weight of possibility. Behind him stands a crowd of cautious souls, all waiting for the storm to pass. But storms don't wait, neither does destiny. And so he steps, slowly at first, not because he's fearless, but because he refuses to be ruled by fear. Every footstep is a declaration. I will not live on the shore of hesitation. He reaches the other side, not because the bridge was safe, but because he was willing to cross. And when he reaches the other side, he doesn't wave from afar. He builds a better bridge for those behind him. His courage becomes their compass. His motion becomes their map. Are you that man? Or are you still waiting for more money, more skill, more time, more applause? Are you waiting for silence from your doubts before you speak, for comfort before you act, for guarantees before you dare? Because the truth is harsh but freeing. You become the man you seek by moving now, not later. You don't outgrow fear, you outpace it. You don't wait for strength, you build it in motion. And you don't stumble into your calling by chance, you walk into it by choice. The longer you wait, the heavier hesitation becomes. But the moment you leap, even unprepared, you shatter the illusion of perfect timing. You learn to swim only after you dive. So ask yourself, right now, are you waiting for conditions to change, or are you ready to become the kind of man who builds in the storm? Because destiny has no patience for the man who delays, but it rewards the one who dares. Move before the world forgets you waited. Discipline is the silent engine of destiny. You've seen them. Men bursting with ambition. Their words are bold, their dreams are massive, their visions grand enough to stir a crowd. But when you look closer, something's missing. Something essential. They've got desire, but no discipline. And without discipline, even the brightest dreams dim. Without it, your vision becomes vapor. Hope turns into haze. You talk of the life you want, but you never touch it, because you lack the daily fire to bring it into form. Discipline is not the kind of fire that roars in public. It does not demand attention. It does not boast. It builds quietly, relentlessly. While the world celebrates comfort and chases convenience, the disciplined man is already moving, already training, already choosing what matters over what tempts. There is a reason why some rise and others stall. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's not even raw intelligence. It's the ability to govern yourself when no one is watching, to become your own commander, to answer to your future, not your feelings. You want to win? Then discipline your time. Turn hours into tools. Turn mornings into tools. Turn mornings into momentum. Discipline your words. Speak less, mean more. Keep your promise, especially the ones you make to yourself. Discipline your habits, because your habits are the architecture of your destiny. Each action is a brick, and you are either building a palace or a prison. How do you build this kind of discipline? Through decisions. Not once, but again and again. Every morning when the alarm rings and you rise without complaint, that's a decision. Every time you say no to the easy road without needing anyone to applaud you, that's a decision. When you do the thing that must be done, especially when you don't feel like doing it, that's where greatness is born. Discipline is not a single act. It's a system, a rhythm, a way of life. It's brushing your teeth even when you're tired. It's showing up for your goals when your motivation has disappeared. It's preparing the soil even when the harvest is far away. That's what separates those who try from those who build. Picture a man. Every morning he wakes at 5, not because he has to, but because he wants to. He's on a mission. No one sees this. No one cheers for him. He moves through his routine in silence. But make no mistake, a fortress is rising, one repetition at a time, 1 hour at a time. His progress is invisible today, but soon people will look up and ask, how did he do it? And he will know he did it in the hours they all wasted, because success does not come in a flash. It comes in fragments, stacked one over another. Repetition is the real revolution, and routine is the forge in which destiny is shaped. So ask yourself, what are you building in your quiet hours? While others sleep in, are you preparing? While others watch TV, are you studying? While others complain, are you creating? Or are you still waiting for motivation to carry you, not realizing that discipline is the true engine of progress? You do not rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your discipline. And that is both a warning and a gift, because it means your future is not determined by fate or talent. It's determined by what you choose to repeat. In the end, no one will remember your ideas. They'll remember your impact. And impact is made by those who are consistent, who keep going, who rise again and again, while the world offers 1,000 excuses. This is your edge, your power. Your discipline is your differentiator. In a world full of noise, it makes you silent and unstoppable. So now, the question remains, are you letting the world shape you, or are you shaping yourself? Brick by brick, in the fire of your own routine. Because your future is being built. The only question is, by who? The man who trusts his path walks further doubt as a thief, but not the kind that announces its arrival with noise and drama. No, Doubt works quietly. It slips into your mind before the day even begins. It doesn't steal with force, it steals with questions. Little ones, persistent ones, the kind that make you pause when you should be moving, the kind that make you second-guess what you once felt deeply. It takes your best hours, not by stopping your body, but by weakening your belief. And soon, your fire dies before the day gets a chance to begin. You've felt it. You've stood at the edge of a good idea and let doubt pull you back. You've crafted plans, only to watch them collect dust because you questioned your own ability to carry them out. And so days pass, then months, then years, not for lack of ambition, but for lack of trust. Because here's the truth. Talent is nothing without trust in yourself, and doubt will always delay what you were meant to start. But there's something stronger than doubt, something deeper, and that is trust. Not in guarantees, but in your direction. Not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of purpose. Trust is not blind. It sees the difficulty ahead, it sees the obstacles and the unknowns, and it keeps moving anyway. Because the man who trusts his path walks farther than the man who questions every step. You don't build that trust by thinking positively or waiting for inspiration. You build it through movement. You build it every time you follow through on your own word. Every time you do what you promised, even when no one is watching. Even when it's hard, you reinforce the message that you are someone worth believing in, and that belief becomes your foundation. Over time, something begins to shift. You no longer hope that you're capable. You no longer wish you could be the kind of man who follows through. You know it because you've watched yourself do it again and again and again. You've made a habit out of action. You've replaced hesitation with momentum. You've shown up enough times to make trust the natural response, not the exception. It doesn't matter if the rewards haven't come yet. It doesn't matter if the world hasn't noticed. The change is happening inside, and that change, the strengthening of your own trust, is what will carry you through seasons when nothing else will. Imagine a traveler on a long and grueling journey up a mountain. The path is steep, the air grows thin, the fog is so dense at times he can barely see more than a few feet ahead, and yet he continues. He doesn't question the mountain's summit every few steps. He doesn't demand a new map just because the terrain is rough. He walks, he rests, he walks again. And with each step, his belief in the peak grows stronger, not because he sees it, but because his feet keep carrying him forward. You must become that man. You must move as though the destination exists, even when it's hidden. You must act as though your mission is real, because it is. If you wait to believe until everything is clear, you'll never move, and if you stop to reevaluate your path every time it gets hard, you'll never arrive. Trust is not a luxury, it is a requirement. Without it, you remain stuck, trapped between who you are and who you could be. But when you develop it, when you make yourself trustworthy through consistent action, you unlock a kind of quiet power. You stop seeking validation, you stop explaining yourself, you simply go. So now the question stands before you. Do you trust the road you've chosen? Or do you sabotage your progress with endless second-guessing? Do you walk like a man on a mission, or like one who is still waiting for permission to begin? The man who trusts his journey walks further. Not because the road is easier, but because he no longer doubts that every step counts. Trust the climb, even when it's steep, even when it's lonely, even when you can't yet see the summit. Walk like it matters, because it does. When you keep score, you keep growing. A man without a ledger soon forgets his effort. He forgets the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices that no one else saw. He convinces himself he's not doing enough, or worse, that he's doing more than he really is. But the truth, without a record, he's just guessing. And a man who guesses his progress walks in circles because he has no compass to guide him forward. Keeping score isn't vanity, it's clarity. It doesn't make you obsessed with numbers, it makes you honest. A ledger is not for the world to see, it's for you to face. You don't keep track to impress. You keep track to adjust. Because success isn't found in trying hard, it's found in refining what you try. And refinement begins with measurement. Every man has felt the fog, that vague, frustrating sense that he's spinning his wheels, working hard but going nowhere. It's easy to fall into that trap when you have no proof of progress. But when you start recording your efforts, your time, your habits, your results, you create a map of where you've been, how far you've come, and where you need to improve. You start simply. You get a notebook, not a fancy app, not a tool that distracts you with bells and charts, just a plain book. You open it and you begin to write. Today, 3 hours focused work, 10 pages read, 1 workout complete, promise kept, wake up at 5 a.m. You don't judge, you don't embellish, you just write the truth. And over time, that truth becomes your foundation. Because the moment you begin tracking, you stop lying to yourself. No more illusions of discipline when the numbers say otherwise. No more pretending you're stuck when the pages prove you're growing. The gaps appear, and so does the growth. You gain power, not from perfection, but from precision. You stop working blindly and start working intentionally. Imagine a mason building a wall. Each day he lays bricks, not a wall that others can see yet, just brick after brick. If he doesn't count them, if he never steps back to measure, the process feels endless. He feels behind, incomplete. But when he counts, when he sees that wall rising inch by inch, that knowledge becomes fuel. He realizes that progress, though slow, is real, and what's real gives him reason to return tomorrow. Your ledger is your mirror, and mirrors don't lie. When you skip your routine, the blank space on the page reminds you. When you show up day after day, the filled lines prove it. It becomes harder to quit when your own history is staring back at you, page after page of effort. And that history becomes your momentum. It reminds you of what you've built and what still remains. But too many men walk away too early, not because they failed, but because they didn't see how far they had come. They never kept score, so their effort faded into fog. The wall was halfway built, but they turned back, thinking nothing had changed. What if your next breakthrough is 1 page away, 1 more day, 1 more set, 1 more session of focused work? But you give up because you never measured how close you truly were. Keeping a ledger makes your progress visible, and what you can see, you can strengthen. You start learning your patterns. You notice what days you win, what hours you thrive, what habits work and which ones don't. You become a strategist, not just a worker, and it's not about perfection, it's about presence, about showing up to your own life with awareness, not assumptions. That awareness sharpens your decisions, and sharpened decisions change your direction. So ask yourself now, have you been keeping track, or have you let your work disappear into forgetfulness? Have you built a habit of documentation? Or have you relied on memory, hoping it would carry the weight of your ambition? Because you don't rise by accident. You rise brick by brick, decision by decision, line by line. Write it down, measure it, honor it. Let your ledger be your quiet weapon in a noisy world. And when the day comes where you feel lost, open the book, see the work, remember the climb, and then keep building. Others may stop, you must not most. Men start strong. At the beginning, the fire is fresh, the motivation burns hot, the vision is clear. You see men setting goals, making plans, charging forward with excitement, but life doesn't honor enthusiasm alone. It tests it, it throws storms at it, and soon you start to see who's real, who's committed, who's built to last. The early crowd begins to thin, not because they didn't want it, but because they didn't endure. Hardship doesn't knock politely. It crashes in. It tests your patience, your passion, your persistence. It asks one question: will you keep going when it's no longer exciting? Many don't. They falter. They find someone to blame. They wait for the wind to change. They tell themselves they'll start again when conditions are better. But delay becomes detour, and detour becomes never. But not you. You must not stop, because your pace might be the only one carrying your legacy forward. Your footsteps may be the only ones keeping the road open for those who come behind you. You're not running a race against others. You're fulfilling a calling designed for you. No one else can finish it. No one else will pick it up if you drop it. This path demands more than talent. It demands endurance. You must outlast the noise, outwork the distractions, outperform the doubt that creeps in when you're tired and no one's watching. You must become that man. The one who keeps going when others evaporate, not because it's easy, but because you remember why you began. You don't treat your work like a hobby. You make it a vow. You don't dabble. You devote. This is not optional. This is a commitment. The way a soldier reports for duty, no matter the weather, no matter the fear, you report to your mission, rain or shine, storm or sun. The work continues because the work is who you are. Think about the runner on a long, winding road. In the beginning, the crowd is thick. Everyone's full of adrenaline, jokes, smiles, high spirits. But miles later, something shifts. The sun rises higher, the breath shortens, the legs grow heavy. One by one, they slow. They fall back. They stop. Some sit on the roadside, some turn around, and the road gets quiet. But one man keeps running. Not because he feels strong, but because he remembers the finish line. He sees it in his mind, even when it's not in sight. That vision carries him forward. That vision separates him from the rest. Where are you on the road? Have you allowed the fading crowd to affect your pace? Are you moving slower because they did? Have you paused your pursuit simply because others gave up on theirs? This is where most men fall, not because they couldn't win, but because they stopped running. They lost their rhythm. They lost their reason. They waited for company on a path that was never meant to be crowded. The ones who win are not always the fastest. They are the ones who finish. The ones who push through the silence, through the soreness, through the solitude. And here's the truth. The further you go, the lonelier it gets. But that's where your strength is forged. In the lonely mile, in the final laps, in the silent victories that no one else sees. So let the crowd thin, let the noise fade, let others pause if they must, but you keep running. You don't need applause, you don't need company, you need conviction. You need to remember that your mission matters, even if no one else is watching, even if no one else is running beside you. Because your legacy depends not on how loud you start, but on how long you last. The man who endures becomes the man others remember. The man who keeps going becomes the reason others believe. So ask yourself right now, will you be one of many who began or one of the few who finished? Run, even when it's hard, even when you're alone, even when your breath is short and your legs ache. Run because your purpose is still ahead. And it's waiting for the man who refused to stop. The man who honors his time commands his life. Time is not something you manage, it's something you command. And the man who learns to command it doesn't just get more done, he becomes more. Because time is not just minutes on a clock, it is potential in motion. It is the raw material from which you build your destiny. To waste time is not merely inefficient, it is destructive. It steals not only opportunity, but power. Time, once gone, never returns. There are no refunds, no second drafts, only consequences. Most men treat time like it's infinite. They squander mornings in delay, trade afternoons for distraction, and give their nights to noise. They assume there will always be more, but life doesn't promise more. It promises now, and now is slipping away with every passive choice. That's why the man who honors time, who treats every hour like sacred ground, stands apart. He moves differently, speaks deliberately, chooses wisely, because he knows that what he does with his time is what he becomes. To command your time, you begin by deciding what matters, not vaguely, not someday, but daily. You identify the few actions that move your life forward, and you guard them like treasure. You don't just try to work, you carve out hours, like a sculptor-shaped stone. Each block of time is protected, each task measured, each interruption challenged. Every minute spent on purpose builds momentum. It compounds like interest on investment. Small, consistent deposits create something massive over time. But every minute lost to watching TV, reacting, drifting, it subtracts. It weakens your edge, dulls your focus, erodes your ambition. You cannot build a legacy on leftovers. You build it on priority. The path to mastering time begins with discipline. That doesn't mean stuffing your schedule with endless activity. It means deciding in advance what matters and doing it whether you feel like it or not. You establish fixed hours, sacred routines, clear goals. You wake up not just to exist, but to build. You don't just try to work. You carve out hours like a sculptor-shaped stone. Each block of time is protected, each task measured, each interruption challenged. Every minute spent on purpose builds momentum. It compounds like interest on investment. Small, consistent deposits create something massive over time. But every minute lost to watching TV, reacting, drifting, it subtracts. It weakens your edge, dulls your focus, erodes your ambition. You cannot build a legacy on leftovers. You build it on priority. The path to mastering time begins with discipline. That doesn't mean stuffing your schedule with endless activity. It means deciding in advance what matters and doing it whether you feel like it or not. You establish fixed hours, sacred routines, clear goals. You wake up not just to exist, but to build. You create boundaries around your attention. You train your body and mind to respond to your command, not the world's demands. Because here's the truth. The man who responds to every interruption lives in reaction. His day is stolen. One message, one distraction, one pointless meeting at a time. He ends his day wondering where the time went. But the man who protects his schedule, he lives in intention. He finishes his day knowing exactly what was built, what was moved, what was won. Visualize a builder with a blueprint. He has a plan, a timeline, a purpose. As people walk by with opinions, with distractions, with noise, he doesn't adjust his design to please them. He honors the plan. He watches the clock, not in anxiety, but in respect. And when the month ends, his structure stands, not because he rushed, but because he ruled his time. Now ask yourself, have you been letting time lead you, or are you leading your time? Do you wake with clarity or with confusion? Are your days designed, or are they dictated by whatever shows up? Because time won't slow down for your uncertainty, and it won't wait for you to feel ready. It moves relentlessly, and it respects only the man who respects it. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be precise. Begin small. Set sacred hours for deep work. Define your daily non-negotiables. Silence distractions during your peak focus zones. Say no more often. Watch what happens. You'll feel yourself come alive, not from working harder, but from working clearer. Because when you treat your time like a sacred instrument of your future, it becomes one. Your life takes shape, your confidence returns, your results multiply, not because of luck, but because of leadership. Self-leadership. And it all begins with how you command a single day. So take the clock in your hands, not as a burden, but as a tool. Command it, shape it, honor it, and it will shape you. Mastery belongs to the man who repeats without excuse. Mastery is not magic. It is not a divine gift sprinkled on the lucky few. It is not reserved for the chosen, the prodigies, or the ones born with talent in their veins. Mastery belongs to the man who repeats, who returns to his craft, not for applause, not for attention, not for reward, but because it's his. He owns it. And he knows that excellence is never born in bursts of inspiration. It is born in returning again, again, and again. The man who masters his craft is not necessarily the smartest in the room. Often he is the quietest. While others bounce from passion to passion, from shiny object to shiny object, he digs in. He chooses depth over novelty. He embraces the boredom others run from. While the world praises talent, he learns to praise consistency because he knows this secret. The world eventually kneels to the man who refuses to stop showing up. Mastery is not doing many things well. It is doing one thing deeply, repeatedly, without distraction, without dilution. It is carving away everything that doesn't matter until only the essential remains. And then doing that essential thing with precision day after day until it becomes second nature, until your hand moves before you think, until your work speaks before you do. You don't chase mastery, you build it. Your repetitions are the bricks. The thousands of times you swing the hammer, write the sentence, lift the weight, play the scale, these are the visible pieces. But it's your silence, your refusal to advertise your journey, your patience with obscurity, that becomes the cement. And holding it all together is your belief. Belief that the process matters, that the basics are enough, that the glory is not found in skipping steps, but in walking every one of them with care. Picture a pianist. He wakes before dawn. He sits before the keys. The room is cold. The light is dim. He begins to play. Not a song, not a performance, but a scale. Over and over. Each finger movement measured. Each note exact. His friends ask why he's not writing new music, why he's not sharing more online, why he's not chasing opportunity, but he keeps returning to the scale. Weeks pass, then months, then years. One day the moment arrives. A full hall, a grand piano, silence. And he plays, not with flash, not with noise, but with depth. The kind that freezes a room, the kind that quiets hearts, the kind that only repetition can teach. Not because he was the most gifted, but because he was the most devoted. Now ask yourself, have you repeated your craft enough to earn that moment? Or are you still hoping for shortcuts, still switching lanes every time the road gets hard, still craving novelty instead of embracing necessity? Excellence has never been about speed. It has always been about endurance. The master is not the one who burns brightest, but the one who burns longest, the one who stayed when others quit, the one who fell in love with the mundane because he knew it was the path to the magnificent. To reach mastery, you must stop chasing applause. You must stop waiting to feel ready. You must stop measuring your worth by how much recognition you get. True masters don't need noise. Their work speaks for them. Their silence carries weight. Their hands move with wisdom not born in a day, but carved by years of patient repetition. Are you willing to return to your scale, to your blank page, to your brush stroke? Are you willing to repeat when it's dull, to refine when no one is watching, to keep going not because the world is cheering, but because you've decided this is who you are? Because in the end, it's not the gifted who rise, it's the grounded, the devoted, the ones who do the work, especially when it's not exciting, the ones who stack bricks while others chase castles in the sky. Mastery is not a finish line, it is a practice. A quiet rebellion against distraction, a daily choice to become great by doing the small things well. So return to your work, repeat, refine, and rise, slowly, steadily, unshakably. Resilience is the mark of a man who has decided, ooh. Don't bounce back from life storms because you're naturally strong. You bounce back because at some point, you made a quiet, unwavering decision. I will not be broken. That choice doesn't make the pain disappear. It doesn't make the road smooth, but it does make you immovable. Not because your body can't be shaken, but because your mind refuses to collapse. True resilience isn't in your muscles. It's in your mindset. It's the invisible spine you carry into every hard day, the inner steel that bends but never breaks. Resilience isn't some mystical trait handed to the lucky few. It's a skill, a muscle, a way of thinking, and it's earned in the trenches of life, not in the moments when things are going well, but in the moments when nothing makes sense, when your back is against the wall and the world offers you every reason to quit. That's when it's built. That's where it's tested, and ultimately, that's where it's proven. When life comes at you, and it will, you face a fork in the road. You can collapse or you can construct. The man who collapses lets circumstances shape him. The man who constructs uses those same circumstances to strengthen himself. The difference isn't fate, It's not fortune, it's decision. The day you decide that nothing will make you quit, even pain starts to lose its grip on you. Because pain can only rule the man who hasn't made up his mind. Resilience is built the way strength is built, through resistance. You don't get stronger by avoiding the struggle. You get stronger by choosing it, by facing discomfort on purpose, by stepping into the fire with your eyes open, knowing it's the only way to forge something solid inside yourself. You train your mind to stand even when everything else shakes. You welcome the challenge. You stay in the ring, you take the hits, and you stay upright. You don't flinch. You don't flee. You fight, not with rage, but with resolve. And every time you endure, every time you don't give in, you earn the right to say, I am the kind of man who continues. Picture two men standing side by side, both brought to their knees by life, the same blow, the same setback. One lowers his head and asks, why me? He gives his pain a crown. He lets the hardship become his identity. But the other, he lifts his eyes and says, watch me. He hurts just as much, but he turns that pain into fuel, into focus, into forward motion. And while the first man fades, the second rises, not because it's easy, but because he's decided. The world tries to teach you that resilience is some rare inner fire you're born with. It's not. It's a choice. And the power of that choice is available to every man, every day. You don't need a perfect past. You don't need ideal conditions. All you need is decision. A firm, final commitment that says, I will not be broken. What kind of man are you becoming? Have you made the decision, not the wish, not the hope, but the decision to rise, no matter what? Or are you still waiting for the pain to stop before you move again? Still hoping life gets easier before you give it your all? Let this be your moment of clarity. Resilience begins the moment you decide that quitting is no longer an option. Not just when it's convenient, not when people are watching, but always. Especially when it's silent, especially when it's heavy, especially when your heart says enough and your mind says one more step. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. You need to continue. Decide now, decide clearly, decide finally, and then rise. You become what you schedule. You want to change your life? Don't wait for motivation, don't wait for the right mood, and don't wait for your dreams to carry you. Change your schedule. Because your future isn't built by what you hope for, it's built by what you do. A man is not defined by what he wishes, but by what he repeats. And your routine? That is your real identity, in motion. Men speak of ambition like it's enough. They talk of goals, visions, breakthroughs, but those things are useless without structure. Greatness doesn't arrive by accident. It doesn't knock on your door because you had a good idea. It shows up only when you've made space for it. Time is the currency of achievement, and your calendar is the blueprint. Every man is given 24 hours, no more, no less. But what separates the great from the average is how those hours are treated. Some men waste time like it's infinite, drifting, reacting. Others guard it like treasure. They assign purpose to each hour. They don't wait for the day to define them, they define the day. If you want to rise, you must do the same. You must become ruthless with your time. Not cold, not robotic, but intentional. You wake up with a mission. You structure your hours around what matters most. You build your schedule not around comfort, but around calling. How? By anchoring your day with sacred habits. A time to read, to feed your mind, a time to work without excuse, a time to reflect, to sharpen your awareness and direction. These anchors don't just build productivity, they build identity. They say to the world, this is who I am. This is what I do, no matter how I feel. You begin to live by principle, not preference. Because preference says, I'll do it when I feel like it. But principle says, I'll do it because it's who I am. And that is where transformation begins. That is where a man stops being driven by emotion and starts being driven by intention. Picture a blacksmith. His work is not romantic, it's hot, it's loud, it's repetitive, but every morning he begins at dawn. He lights the forge, he lifts the hammer. He works not when he feels like it, but because the work must be done. His strikes are rhythmic, deliberate, measured, not rushed, not random. And over time, his output is visible, strong, useful, lasting. His power is not in how he feels about the fire, it's in how he shows up to it day after day. Now ask yourself, have you designed your day, or is your day designing you? Are your hours laid out with purpose, or are you just responding to whatever shouts the loudest? If a stranger followed your schedule for 1 week, would they become the man you hope to be? Or would they inherit your distractions, your delays, your drift? Because here's the truth most men ignore. Your schedule is not just a list of things to do. It is a declaration of who you are becoming. Every hour tells a story. Every routine casts a vote for your future self. And if those hours are chaotic, if they are filled with noise, avoidance, or aimlessness, then so will be the man they produce. But when your schedule becomes sacred, when it reflects discipline, clarity, purpose, you begin to transform, slowly, quietly, powerfully. Your days become tools, your life a masterpiece in the making. Change your schedule and you'll change your standard. Change your standard and you'll change yourself. That's how it works. Not overnight, not with dramatic bursts, but with quiet commitment day after day. This is your opportunity. To stop drifting, to start designing, to look at your calendar not as a burden, but as a weapon to fight distraction, excuse, and the slow decay of potential. So go ahead, define your morning, guard your hours, choose your routines with care, to build your day with the same attention a craftsman gives to his workbench. Because the life you want is already waiting inside the day you design. You rise higher when you expect more of yourself. Most men wait. They wait for the world to recognize them, to reward them, to demand more from them. They think pressure from the outside will push them into becoming their best. But greatness doesn't work that way. The secret, the quiet truth that separates the few from the many is this: you must demand greatness from yourself. Not later, not once life asks for it, now. High expectations are not a burden. They are a signal, a message to your own soul that says, I am made for more. That voice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, but it's always there, telling you that good enough is not enough, that potential is not purpose unless it's used, that your life doesn't rise to the level of your dreams, it rises to the level of your standards. To raise your life, you must first raise your expectations. You stop settling for average effort. You stop tolerating lazy decisions. You stop hiding behind clever excuses that sound good in the moment, but leave you hollow later. You get brutally honest with yourself. You look in the mirror not to criticize, but to confront. And you say, that is not my best, and my best is what I owe. You do not owe perfection, but you do owe effort, integrity, full attention, because the man who expects more from himself gets more from life, not because the world gives it to him, but because he earns it, quietly, daily, consistently. This begins with the small choices. The early morning when you rise or sleep in, the extra rep when no one's watching, the choice to rewrite the page, rework the plan, rebuild the structure, not because it's broken, but because it's not your best, and you expect better. That's the difference between those who rise and those who repeat. Picture a carpenter. He's building a home. He works alone. He installs a beam, but notices a slight tilt. It's subtle, invisible to most. He could cover it, paint it, move on, but he doesn't. He tears it down and builds again, stronger, straighter, better, because he sees it, because he knows, because he expects more. That man, the one who holds himself to a higher standard, even when no one else is watching, that man is rare. That man is dangerous, because he cannot be bought with praise or broken by silence. His reward is within. It's in the satisfaction of knowing he gave everything, that he lived not by reaction, but by principle. that he builds something that lasts. So ask yourself, what corners have you been cutting that no one else sees? What moments have you allowed to slip into good enough because they didn't demand more? And the deeper question, do you believe those details matter? Because they do. That is the true measure of a man. Not what he does when he's being judged, but what he chooses when no one would know the difference. You become extraordinary not through public displays of greatness, but through private acts of excellence. You rise not when the world watches, but when you watch yourself. That standard, internal and unshakable, becomes your compass, and soon life begins to mirror it. Opportunities multiply, respect deepens, confidence grows, not because life changed, but because you did. The man who demands greatness from himself is never desperate for approval. He already knows who he is. He's not trying to be impressive. He's committed to being real, to being better, to being true. So decide today. No more lowered bars, no more rationalized laziness, no more hiding behind the fog of I'm doing my best when you know you're not. Raise the bar and then rise to meet it. The world may not notice right away, but you will. You'll feel the difference in how you walk, speak, work, lead. You'll build momentum not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And over time, others will see the results, but you'll know it was built brick by brick in silence, through standard, through self-respect. You don't wait for greatness, you become it. By choosing it, by expecting it, and by never ever settling for less. Purpose makes pain profitable. Pain is not always punishment. More often it is preparation. It is the pressure that precedes the breakthrough, the chisel that shapes the stone, the fire that purifies gold. But there's a critical distinction you must grasp. Pain without purpose feels like torment. Pain with purpose becomes transformation. This is the difference between despair and development. When you don't know why you suffer, the ache echoes endlessly. But when you attach meaning to the pain, when you assign it purpose, you step into power. Suddenly the suffering becomes sacred. You stop asking, why me? And start declaring, this is molding me. Every great man you admire, whether he stood on a battlefield, a stage, or the pages of history, has walked through fire. But none of them were merely burned by it. They used it. They allowed the flames to refine them, not consume them. They turned heartache into hunger, misfortune into meaning. You must learn to do the same. You must stop fleeing from pain as if it were an enemy. You must learn to face it, study it, and ask it, what are you trying to teach me? Because pain is a messenger. It arrives with sharp lessons wrapped in discomfort. Ignore it, and it repeats. Embrace it, and it transforms you. Think of a sculptor. He stands before a massive, untouched block of stone. With every strike of his hammer and chisel, it appears that he is destroying it. Pieces fly off. The form is battered. The surface is fractured. But this is not chaos. This is creation. The pain of the stone is the price of the sculpture. Without that pain, without that removal of excess, there would be no form, no beauty, no masterpiece. So the sculptor keeps chipping, guided by a vision of what could be. And eventually, where once there was only raw material, now stands a work of art. That is you. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Your pain is not random. It is a signal that you are in process, that your life is under construction. You are being chiseled into something sharper, something stronger. But only if you cooperate with the process. You must stop seeing every setback as sabotage. You must stop seeing every failure as a final sentence. Instead, see them as sacred shaping. Feel the sting, but stay the course. Endure the breaking, but keep